then you definitely can't complain about it. You can't expect a pat on the back. You can't expect people to be very impressed with what you're doing. And you need to always be horrendously humble and tenacious in getting what you want.
When the going gets rough, you know how the saying goes. Sometimes things happen. Life happens, and it's not always our fault. In this podcast, we'll feature real-life testimonials from people like you, from good times to bad, funny memories and hard lessons learned. Everyone has a story, and everyone has been there. From business owners to parents to young adults, the Hive 5 aims to tell stories of overcoming the struggles of adulting while celebrating the little victories of life. In each podcast, our guests will give insight to 5 key takeaways from someone who's been there and done that, leaving you better than when you started. Hey guys, thanks for listening today. My name is Kagan with BriteBee.
And this is Catherine with BriteBee.
And today we are excited to have on the High Five podcast Ken Barton, the founder and CEO of MinnoTank. MinnoTank is a platform to connect tech startups and investors through an online pitch. Currently, over $2 million has been raised from companies that have pitched on MinnoTank. Ken has a varied background, both in investing, building startups, and happens to speak fluent Chinese. I'm really interested to hear about that. Through MinnoTank, he has a special focus on helping the oftentimes overlooked minority founders of the startup world. Thanks for being on today, Ken.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Well, give us a brief explanation of what MinnoTank is and what you're trying to accomplish.
Well, Kagan and Catherine, thank you very much for having me. This is MinnoTank's very first podcast interview, so I'm excited about that.
Whoop, whoop.
So talk to you a little bit about what MinnoTank is. So this kind of comes back to the story of being a founder today and being a technology founder in the late 2018 era. Is I think a lot of us feel the pain of trying to go out and pitch our company to investors. Many of us don't live in Silicon Valley, and even if we do, our network is kind of lacking. And so it's always hard to know when you're pitching into one room, am I going to be pitching to the right audience? Are the right people going to hear my pitch? And then is anything going to come out of this? I had that problem many times in my life where I was living in Berlin, Germany, or I was living in China when I was pitching different products or things I was working on. And I was worried that people weren't going to hear my pitch. I'd say, people just can't hear it. If they just heard my pitch, if the right person heard it, I'd have so much more success. And I always thought that was a reach issue, right? The reach of your pitch. So the problem that MinnoTank is solving is that reach issue. MinnoTank, as a platform to connect tech startups and investors, we are the conduit, the ability for investors all over the USA and the world to hear your pitch better. And we do that through video. So to answer your question specifically, what we're trying to accomplish is enabling tech founders specifically, and in the future, all startup founders, to be able to have a platform to pitch out their company and have investors come to them. So find your audience and find your evangelists out there who believe in what you're doing and want to help join you on your voyage forward.
That's awesome, Ken. Tell us a little bit of background about you. You mentioned, you're not in Silicon Valley. Where are you?
Yeah, great question, Catherine. So right now I live in Chicago, Illinois.
Very cool. So as I'm sure our audience can tell just through the intro, you're a pretty busy person with a lot of different experience. Give us your personal story and how you've come to the place that you're currently at with MinnoTank.
So, Catherine, I would agree. I'm pretty much a busy bee.
That was a good one.
All right, so are we going to do bee puns or no? Are we?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right, we're bee puns.
You just stung me with that one.
Good. All right, I'm going to get as many bee puns as possible in my explanation about myself.
That is awesome.
So it's actually funny you say busy because that's, as a busy bee, that's one of my least favorite words. I think we actually focus on things that are important to us. But yes, I do have a diverse amount of experience all over the world. Let me give you the quick play-by-play of who Ken Barton is. So I was born in Orlando, Florida, to two entrepreneurs, Teresa and Nick Barton. They've led my life in the fact that neither of them have been to college, so I'm first generation college, and both of them have run businesses and employed people throughout their life. So that's always been an exciting concept to me, is being an entrepreneur and going through entrepreneurship. I started my first business when I was 15, and it wasn't I didn't start the lemonade stand. I started a magazine to take on franchises. So I specialized in going around and speaking to locally owned businesses in the Orlando area to feature them in a magazine to help other people understand where there were non-franchise-based businesses. So I've always had intent behind what I'm doing. I had to get out of Florida. So my goal was, how do you get out? My parents had never been to college. And so I didn't really have a path forward in that direction. So luckily, I went to a community college, and I got the opportunity to study Mandarin and go on a trip to China. When I was in a business class, they were looking for envoys or people to represent their school when visiting China. Went to China, absolutely fell in love with it. Every book I've ever read about entrepreneurship and future has told me to follow innovation. And when you're, driving through China on a trip from Tianjin to Beijing, which is about a 4-hour bus ride, well, everyone else was playing Angry Birds. So giving you guys a timeline of what time it was, everyone was obsessed with Angry Birds. And maybe it was even still Farmville. I'm not sure, but we were right around that time. So Zanga was just coming around. I had my eyes glued to the glass of the window, watching the construction cranes. In my entire life, of up to whatever I was, 19 or 20 years old, I'd probably seen 10 or 20 construction cranes in total. In my 4-hour ride between Tianjin and Beijing, I probably saw several thousand.
What were you thinking?
I was thinking this is the future. I was thinking that, how did I think that Chinese buffets were the extent of Chinese culture? Thank you, Florida.
That is true.
Which is true. That's what I really thought. But then as I was going through that, I said, I have to go after this, and I have to follow this passion. Fast forward, I had 2 degrees in Mandarin. I left China to go to all over Southeast Asia and Berlin, Germany, where I started working in technology companies because I thought scale was really important to me. Reaching a large audience really mattered. I've always worked in sales. I'm a gregarious person. I'll talk about that a little later with my key takeaways as to playing to your strengths. I actually, after I left the tech space, I said, I had built a company. I had sold the company while I was living in Berlin, Germany. It was a tech company, a LinkedIn scraper tool. And it was a great experience. But the problem was when I sold it, I had to sell it out of a pressure point because the market had changed and things were going on. And I actually didn't do very well when I exited because I didn't understand finance at all. So after leaving this company in Berlin, Germany, I came back to the USA to go work for Merrill Lynch, which is a Fortune 100 financial firm. Got amazing education. One of my other suggestions to every entrepreneur or founder out there, get someone else to pay you to educate you. That happened at Merrill Lynch, where they're teaching me and they're paying me to learn all about finance, stocks, and bonds, but more importantly, how private equity worked. And I used that knowledge and skill to build MinnoTank. So it might sound crazy, right? Let's take a step back. I was a tech founder, and I still am a tech founder, so I understood the difficulty of finding funding and what it's like to raise capital while I was actually living outside the USA. Then I came to the US, and I was on the other side. I was with the high net worth individuals, the investors, and I was helping them understand the founder's mentality and how to create partnerships instead of just a contentious investor relationship. And so that's where I saw the opportunity for MinnoTank, being the bridge, being the conduit or the platform to connect these two parties. And I think it's a big opportunity.
So was this all part of a very strategic plan? After you sold your company, you were like, I'm going to go learn more about, equity and all this through a company, and then I'm going to go back out on my own. Or is that just the way that it worked out?
So, Catherine, I wish I could tell you and lie to you and say, yes, this is all very strategic. I'm super strategic. I think my most strategic move in my life was learning Mandarin, because it's opened up all these doors for me. And it's kind of taught me that there's nothing in the world I can't do. And that's a really important thing I'll talk about later as to my own belief of how to be your best entrepreneur. But no, a lot of it was very free-flowing. I sold my company when I was living in Berlin, and I said to myself, well, I really don't know very much about finance. Here I was trying to sell and broker and negotiate stock options with myself and my co-founders, and I actually have very little understanding of it. And you can read as many blogs as you want, but until you get in the weeds and really understand, what is a portfolio? How much does an average investor commit towards venture capital? What is venture capital? What are venture capital's expectations? You'll actually see, if you dig deep into that many companies are not venture capital fundable, because unless your company has a very clear ability to return at least 10 times what someone has invested into it, venture capitalists should not look at you. That's, ignoring government funding and local community funding and whatnot, but a real venture capitalist, and I'm not talking about, an angel investor who believes in you, a real venture capitalist should not fund you unless you have a 10x potential return. And that's the basis of that conversation. And so that really helped me form my mind. But no, Catherine, it was not strategic. It was very organic.
Wow. Well, let's talk a little bit about the background of MinnoTank. Tell us about MinnoTank and what you guys do.
Yep. So currently, MinnoTank is, like I said, a platform to connect tech startups and investors. So what we've done is we built out a couple things I think are really important when you're starting a company. Also, let's reference how old MinnoTank is, because this is important to me. We're coming up in November will be our 1-year anniversary, so we're almost a year old. So we started late last year, late in 2017. And the idea was, how could I connect the tech startups and the investors? What I realized was I was going to have to make sure we can get the tech startups and package their pitches in a smarter format, because the problem was we'd go to a pitch event and you'd see that genius founder who's really good at what they do and they have very good technical knowledge, but they'll speak for 7 minutes and never get to the point, and then everyone's eyes have glazed over. Or you'd see the investor who walks into this meeting and you see this is someone who has capital, they're interested in investing, and they can't seem to find the right person in the room that really speaks to their interests. So what MinnoTank does is right now we help take great technology startups, we help formulate their pitch, and we condense it down. So although we don't consult on how to pitch, we'll look over decks and we'll say, this is a great pitch, we like your company's potential, and we're going to help you format it in a way that it's attractive, and then we are the delivery platform. So we produce a new pitch every week right now, where we'll do 2 aspects. One is the elevator pitch, and that's a 60-second pre-recorded pitch by the founder. And then we'll do a maximum of 5 minutes deck pitch, where a startup will go over their pitch deck visually. So we'll always do the founder's face and the deck side by side. And there's some psychology that plays into that as well, because as an investor, 9 times out of 10, when you speak to a venture capitalist, they will tell you in the early stage space, I'm not actually investing in the company. I'm more investing into the founder or founders, because that is what you're betting on. You're betting on that horse. Only with the passion of the founding team that you've put together are you going to reach your goal. And you will pivot 10, 15, 20 times throughout, but an investor is believing in you. And so what we had to do is figure out and say, how can we package these pitches better and how can we deliver them smarter? And the nice thing is it's really worked. So right now, MinnoTank has had, I think it's 36, 37 companies to date, and this is August of 2018 we're talking about. But we have hundreds of companies waiting to pitch. So we have a wait list with hundreds of companies waiting to pitch on MinnoTank. So we're trying to deliver them slowly but surely and make sure we keep our quality very high and keep our brand continuity high. But more important than that, we have hundreds of angel investors who are subscribed to MinnoTank that see these pitches every week.
That's awesome. So I want to back up, though, because I know everyone is wondering, where did MinnoTank come from? And we all have this idea of where it came from, but can you tell us a little bit of the inspiration behind it?
Hold on, Kagan. I want to hear your idea first. What is Kagan and Catherine's take on MinnoTank? Where do you think it came from?
Well, so let me back up even further.
Uh-oh, we are backing up.
We are backing up even further. Whenever we were in the very beginning stages of BriteBee, we were talking about funding and stuff, and I was researching online, and I found MinnoTank, and I was like, Kagan, MinnoTank, it's like Shark Tank, but it's minnows.
And so we were somewhat drawn to that, and then we came to Collision, and then you actually approached us and told us, and we were like, oh my gosh, we've actually seen this.
Yeah.
And so we've had this thought that there's some inspiration behind Shark Tank, and honestly, MinnoTank sounds a little bit nicer, less scary, right? Than Shark Tank, but that's kind of our thought.
Well, first thing, Kagan and Catherine, keeping with our bee puns, y'all are making my honey warm. So
Oh my God.
we'll use that one. Because that's exactly what you can hope for when you're a tech company. You can hope that your potential customers, your potential users are out there searching for you, and they find you without being marketed to. So, Catherine, what you found was not an advertisement, but you searched some key term, which I wish you could remember and tell me right now. But I'm not.
I wish I could do.
Yeah, of course. But you searched some key term that we're hunting after, that we've written a blog about, or we've written some kind of content that pulled you into us, and you found us, which is amazing. And believe it or not, right now, MinnoTank organically gets 90% of our traffic, just because the opportunity to pitch online like this is just so innovative and new. Now, where did it come from? It definitely came from Shark Tank in that I thought Shark Tank is really smart. So here's the reasons why Shark Tank is smart. Shark Tank has millions of viewers every week. Shark Tank features venture capital. Shark Tank is educational. Whether or not you even like the companies that come on, you learn about valuations, venture capital deals, what that looks like. You're learning all these aspects together, which even if you never invest a single dollar, even if you just want to be on there for the reality TV show, you're actually passively learning about finance as you watch. I thought all those things were very valuable. And the fact that there are millions of people watching this, I said to myself, there's got to be a way we can do the same thing for tech companies. Because there's so many more of us. There's so many early stage tech companies. And I saw that Shark Tank was always featuring these little widgets, right? 90% of Shark Tank is a thing a viewer can buy. And that's a very logical business, right? You create a reality TV show with these venture capitalists. They put a little bit of money, $100,000, which is very small to them, into this bakery company. This bakery gets 500,000 people that view their website, buy out all their stuff, and they're instantly worth a lot more money. That's a very smart business. But what if we could do that for BriteBee? What if we could have BriteBee go in front of 500,000, 1 million, 5 million people and see it as a new platform to get insurance quotes? Any basic algorithm would tell you that even a 5% conversion rate of 1 million viewers would change BriteBee's future. But more important than that, what if we told you there was a way that investors would be tuning into the show and potentially they would reach out to you, which is, as founders, Catherine Kagan, I'm sure you would tell me it's probably one of your most difficult challenges is getting in front of the right investors to help understand and believe in your company.
Yeah, Ken. So here are a couple of thoughts. People have told me, Kagan, you should go on Shark Tank. And I'm going to be completely transparent. This is what I think. First off, I'm not the right fit for Shark Tank. The second thing is that $100,000 is not going to get me very far. Honestly, I mean, like that's what I think about. And what do you have to say to that? I mean, those are the things that I think about. Like $100,000, we've already invested hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we still need a lot more. Now, yeah, it will help us, but at the same time, it just costs so much money as a tech startup. So tell me what your thoughts are on that.
When you're talking about going on to Shark Tank, I would not suggest a technology startup to go on Shark Tank. I don't think the show is made for you. I don't think they're ever going to actually air you. You might get taped, but they're not going to air you. And I don't believe the deals that they write on Shark Tank are very valuable for the startup.
Yeah.
If you look at some of the valuations, a lot of them are very bad. Very few companies that have gone on Shark Tank that are tech companies have ever actually accomplished much. Very, very few. So I don't think that's the right avenue for you.
Yeah.
But as an evangelist for MinnoTank, I do believe a network that is completely free, that is free to the startups, allows you to reach a large number of angel investors and does not make a limitation based on how much you can raise, is a more valuable option. And that's why, and to answer your original question, where did it come from? I wanted it to exist for me, Kagan. I see your problems. I know $100,000 is not a lot of money. In Chicago, a great example is I'm researching hiring some developers on our team. Entry-level developers in Chicago. Would you guys like to guess how much an entry-level salary is at base level?
Let's say 40,000.
Lower?
Oh, no, much higher.
Oh, higher. Okay.
Well, I mean, you couldn't really live in Chicago area on 40,000, could you?
No, Chicago is relatively inexpensive. It's a great place to start a business. But what I'll tell you is an entry-level developer with any kind of experience is going to run you $60,000 to $80,000 entry-level. Understanding as a single developer, right?
Maybe I should have been a developer.
Yeah, right? And so $100,000 won't get you very far. That's true.
Yeah.
But there's very few angel investors who are going to believe that their $100,000, a single $100,000 will actually get you very much. I think what I'm trying to answer here is I believe that the reason why I started MinnoTank was to create something that I wanted myself. I wanted an ability to pitch hundreds of investors and have them reach out to me, because it's awful to go to events and conferences and angel networks and whatever, and especially some of them expect you to pay, when you don't even know if you're pitching to people who believe in what you do. BriteBee is insurtech, right? You might be pitching to 8 out of the 10 investors have never invested in that space and they don't care about insurance. They don't even think it's an important field, and therefore you're wasting your time. So I just thought it made much more sense to have a platform where you can pitch everyone at the same time, and MinnoTank can learn which investors like which startups by which field. For example, if I'm an investor who likes blockchain, fintech, and CPG, then I only want to see those pitches. And that's what we'll deliver to them. And so by creating a better experience on both sides, without trying to nickel and dime the investors nor the startups, I think we're creating a smarter network.
I'm fascinated by the whole concept. I mean, it sounds really involved and really well thought through.
Why, thank you, Catherine. I try really hard.
Well, it shows. So can you give us a little insight into who you're aiming to serve with MinnoTank?
Sure. So let's start off where we originally started. So originally, I wanted to accept all startup companies. And I'll tell you guys a fun story about Chicago. So I love startups. I'm a startup enthusiast, and I'm a founder several times over. Many failures, but a few successes. So we started off with just startups. We actually held a live event for the very first launch of MinnoTank. We hosted 3 companies that I had recently done business with while at Merrill Lynch. And they were, one was a wireless charging device out of a lab in New York City. One was a Chicago local company that was a dog IoT collar paired with an app, which was really cool. And then one was a CPG, custom packaged goods product that was a dog food made out of carp fish that are a nuisance to the environment. And so they're basically a waste fish that no one eats. So they took this trash, they turned it into gold, and then they, turned it into dog food. The problem was, here I was going at 3 very different angles. Here you have a super high-tech thing, the wireless charger. You have another app that's an interesting, with a paired IoT device, that's a different kind of investor. And then you have a CPG product that's a very different opportunity. All of them were asking for different amounts of money. All of them were pitching live. And yes, we did get 50 investors in the room, which is really cool. This is all live. But it was a learning curve in that the investors said to me, "Hey, Ken, great experience, awful and awfully interesting, but the fact was, these are not in our investment range." And so learning what an investor wants to see was a really big learning curve for MinnoTank, and just seeing if that's who we wanted. So we're trying to serve investors, as a marketplace of 3, so a trifecta marketplace. We're serving investors, tech startups, and the people who view them. So the voyeurs of the situation, the tech enthusiasts, maybe they're future employees, maybe they're evangelists, they're early adopters, all those folks, and maybe even customers, right, of these products. But those are the 3 markets. So the users are the viewers, and then the investors and the tech startups. The reason why we settled on tech startups was because as an investment class, so as something you can invest in, just as custom packaged goods are an investment class, technology startups are an investment class, maybe you'd even see food as an investment class, so maybe you wanted to invest in those. Tech startups have the highest rate of return over time. And that's pretty logical, right? We all have heard of FANG, which is Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. Those are 4 of the largest companies in the world, all based around technology. So we wanted to focus and start with technology startups that were, had high potentials for returns. Therefore, it was easier for us to provide interesting information for investors. And it's worked so far. So those are the major networks we're going for. And then as we create this live stream show as a part of our platform, we're trying to pull in an audience who wants to watch this and wants to watch these live conversations between investors and startups.
So let's talk about important times or futuristic things that are happening here. I know we don't want to talk about specific dates because we don't know exactly, but tell us what we could be looking forward to in the future.
Yeah, so this is also one of the things I'm going to talk about when we talk about our key takeaways, which I like that you guys do. I'm going to be very honest about my product. So I'm not trying to be defensive and saying, oh no, guys, we're flying under the radar. We can't tell you our secret sauce. I actually, what's interesting is whenever I talk to investors right now about the future of MinnoTank, they say, well, show me your competitors. And I'll say, I will tell you when I find them. Because MinnoTank is still revolutionary and new at this point.
Sure.
So my suggestion for those listeners to the Hive 5 is please be open and loud about your product, because even if you attract you attract competitors, that's wonderful, because then you have someone to benchmark yourself off of. Because right now, I, as MinnoTank, am completely trailblazing this opportunity. Yep. So just a 2 cents on the side there. What do you have in store? So let's just say in the near future, because we are looking to close some contracts, and I don't want to give out dates because I don't want this to be wrong in the future. But in the near future, you can look to MinnoTank.com, and you will be able to find an opportunity for you as BriteBee or as a early stage tech startup with the ability to create a profile, upload your videos, and find your tribe. So think of it like this. If you're familiar with either Reddit or Product Hunt, both of those are upvoting platforms, crowd validation platforms. The idea is you put your idea on Reddit or your sentence or your thing, and you upvote it, and then it's seen by the masses because the crowd upvoted and said it was important. There's also on Product Hunt, which is one of my favorite tech communities out there. That's for new products that a company or corporation starts, whether small or big, and you want to make sure the world sees your new product as there's thousands of new products arriving every day to the market. So MinnoTank is using the same theory that we want to see upvoting by our community, by the investors, by other founders, and by our users, customers, evangelists, early adopters, all those folks upvoting and helping us decide which tech companies should be seen by the world. And that's really cool, I think, because if you look at competitors to us, or fuzzy competitors, possibly competitors, you might look at an AngelList, or you might look at a Gust, or one of these startup aggregation platforms. Many of these, as a founder, you have no way to impact who sees you, and you also don't know who sees you. Plus, there's payment situations going on. So either you have to pay or someone has to pay, and that limits all the exposure and growth. Same thing as when Facebook, a long time ago, there were all these threats that Facebook was going to make you start paying. Well, the reason why Facebook was able to grow at the scale it did is because it didn't make you pay. Same thing for MinnoTank. So neither sides are paying for this access. It will always be free to enter for investors and free for startups forever.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'll tell you, when I get to the end and we talk about our takeaways, we did not start that way. We did start by charging founders, which is a very dumb mistake. And I'll talk to you about being honest with yourself and being honest with your business model. And that's important because it helps you learn over time what works and what doesn't. So what can you look for in the future? One will be our web platform, the ability to drive your own traffic, build a tribe of not only investors, not only other tech founders who believe in what you're doing. Maybe it's future partnerships. You can learn from them. You can ask questions. But more importantly, we're going to help you build a tribe of people who want to see you succeed. Imagine BriteBee submits their profile to MinnoTank and you tell your network, hey guys, would you mind upvoting me here and possibly see some other tech companies you'd love to see succeed? We have algorithms built out that help us understand an investor is more significant as an upvote than someone else. So as an 18-year-old college student who's trying to get a job, their upvote might be worth 1, or an investor might be worth 25. And certain investors, like Elon Musk, when I get him on my platform, coming soon, I promise, guys.
Coming soon.
He might be worth 1,000. And so we're building in algorithms to help us create a valuable community to know when certain people upvote you and prioritize what you're doing, it matters more. Now, coupled with that, so that's the web platform, coupled with that, we're in the process of building out our live stream pitch, which is I'm most excited about because I love being on camera. So the theory of the live stream pitch is very much like a Shark Tank. Every week, we will host a live stream pitch where everyone can watch and tune in. We will have the top 3 companies from the web platform. So you've worked really hard, you got several hundred upvotes, and now you're at the top of the ranks this week. You are selected to be on the live stream pitch. You will get to record your pitch and deliver it to an audience of, let's say, 100,000 people in the future, or even 500,000. All the techies out there who believe in what you're doing. Maybe they want to come work for you. Maybe there's customers watching. More importantly, maybe there's a lot of investors watching. But you'll be pitching off with other startups. So there'll be 3 companies. You do a live pitch off. And then we will always have venture capitalists and angel investors there on the call with you. So at a minimum, you're going to get more exposure to big angel groups and some of the ones that are connected with us, as well as venture capitalists. But on the show live, there will be another upvoting. And so we will decide which one of those startups wins. And when I say we, I mean the audience. So all the investors tuning in and everyone, all our users tuning in. And one of you will win money as well as rewards from all of our partners. So we have strategic partners with different, banking, finance, credit, all kinds of solutions that are going to help you move yourself forward and obviously drive interest for the audience. But what's really cool, and my secret sauce that I always get my oh moment, I'm trying to think of another bee pun. I don't know. Like, oh, I got it. My royal jelly. So, I got it. My royal jelly, or my secret sauce, as we often say in tech startups, The royal jelly is that whatever we give away to a tech startup, so for example, if we're giving away $10,000 to the top tech startup that was crowd voted live on that show, we will also write a $10,000 check to one of our users who's tuning in. Anybody who's watching.
Oh,
just
fun.
rewarding them for participating. So the idea is there's a what's in it for me system. So not only did the tech startup say, hey, everyone in my network, guys, please tune in, please upvote me. We could really use this 10K. It's equity free. This is not debt. It's completely a grant. We just give it to you. But as a viewer, you have the opportunity to win the same amount of money. Wouldn't that be awesome? Please tune into MinnoTank.
That's cool. Yeah, that's really great.
Well, Ken, I do not want to run out of time on your 5 key takeaways. So let's go ahead and dive right into those because I know our listeners are probably really excited to hear what you have to say.
Cool. Well, thank you, Catherine. I know I'm a bit of a chatty guy, so apologies about that.
We've loved it.
Well, good. All right. So my top 5 key takeaways. So number 1 is to be tenacious. So this is the word that I learned when I was playing roller hockey in Florida from my roller hockey coach. Again, Florida education is really fine. I was 16 years old, so a little bit delayed. I use the word tenacity and tenacious as being one of my key driving roles as a founder. You, as the founder, have to do 99 jobs, and you definitely can't complain about it. You can't expect a pat on the back. You can't expect people to be very impressed with what you're doing, and you need to always be horrendously humble and tenacious in getting what you want. So tenacity is my number 1 goal for any founder. I don't care if you're a tech founder or you're a real estate agent, whatever you are, you need to be tenacious in your efforts. Unstoppable is what I'm saying. Number 2, make relationships early. MinnoTank, nor any company, whether it's Facebook, Amazon, Google, Netflix, none of us have gotten to where we were on our own.
Absolutely.
This is a mistake a lot of founders make. They believe I can do everything on my own and I don't need anybody else's help, or I'm going to go do this. That is part of being tenacious, is believing in yourself and definitely going at it. But you need to find relationships. And when I say relationships, I mean go find mentors. Find people that have done it before. Find people that have raised money. Find others and just ask questions. And be humble about it and say, hey, listen, you've done this. I would love to just glean just a little bit of knowledge from you. I'd love to be your mentee, which is a compliment, right? So make relationships early. Number 3, aggregate evangelists. So you need to find people who really believe in what you're doing. As I'm talking to you, Kagan and Catherine, it sounds like Catherine is really interested in what I'm doing. It's so important that I keep Catherine engaged with MinnoTank, because otherwise, if I lose this evangelist, that is word of mouth marketing that I cannot pay for. It's impossible for me to pay for that. So you need to not only find evangelists, people who believe in what you're doing, but aggregate them. And the way I'm suggesting that is the most useful time after time way to do it is by their email. Email is still one of the ways that we all have control over our communication channels. It's not by creating a Facebook group. It's not by getting more Twitter followers, although those are, it's not by Instagram. All of those are great platforms, but they are not nearly as controlled and as personal as your email inbox. Now, obviously, there's a big fight for that, but aggregating evangelists is number 3. Bring them all together. Get a list of 5,000 people who believe in what you're doing, and that'll help you when you want to ask questions and you want to say, hey, guys, here's what I'm thinking of doing. Can you help? Those evangelists will help you. Number 4, growth loops. This is one of my favorite theories when it comes to how to scale your business, and I'll give you an example of one of MinnoTank's growth loops. So as I just mentioned about being on the live stream show, or even let's take a step back and look at the web platform, MinnoTank does not have the capital, and we cannot afford to spend $250,000 getting every tech enthusiast out there to tune into MinnoTank. It's not logical, and it's never going to work. No investor is going to fund that. That's not going to happen. But if we build a growth loop in that we ask BriteBee to create a profile and we show them a competitive system, we show them a way that if they infuse their own effort, meaning if there is a reward for BriteBee or a tech startup to do the thing that we want them to do, and that grows our network and it makes everyone happy, we've been successful. So let's walk through what that looks like real quick. So BriteBee creates a profile on MinnoTank. BriteBee realizes there's hundreds of other upvotes in the other companies, and they want to get onto the live stream show. BriteBee shares with their network saying, hey guys, would you please upvote us? We want to get to the top of the ranks. Once they get to the top of the ranks, they again say, hey guys, we have a reason why you, as our friends, family, and everybody who knows us, should drive traffic to this, should drive traffic to MinnoTank, because you as my friends and family and everybody else, have the ability to win money. But so does BriteBee. So if you want to help us, let's please come do this together, upvote and watch together. That's a growth loop because that repeats over and over again with hundreds of companies. This is used by referrals, or whenever you see a company say, hey, tell a friend, we'll give you $10. All of those are growth loops because that's marketing you can't pay for. So that's number 4 is growth loops.
Yeah, Catherine, I think we need to brainstorm with Ken a little bit on some growth loops. I think we've got some in the pipeline, but I think that'd be really fun.
That would be fun.
So on the podcast, you're agreeing to brainstorm with us on growth loops, right, Ken?
Oh, was this a command or was this a request? I don't know what this was. You sound very tenacious. That's what's good there.
That's right. I'm just being tenacious.
He's just practicing.
And I'm working on making relationships early by force.
And he's aggregating an evangelist.
Yes, Catherine. I love it. So I will happily on here say I will be more than happy to help you guys.
And number 6 is willingness.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to number 5 first so I can get it done because I know I've used a lot of y'all's time. So number 5 is to be honest with yourself. So I think one of the things that many tech founders will do is, or many founders or many entrepreneurs, is they are charming people. They will make you believe whatever they're selling doesn't really matter, which is a very good skill to have. But the problem is sometimes you can make yourself believe so much that this is such a great idea that it can fail, and you're still believing it's obviously not working, but you're still believing in it, and you've told everybody else that they should believe in it. Let me give you a great example, and that's where I'll end my speech. So being honest with yourself. When MinnoTank started, I thought to myself, I would be able to charge startups between $500 and $1,000 to pitch a network of investors. There are many businesses out there that do this already. So it was a proven market. It seemed possible. And then I could also charge investors to be validated to make sure they were real investors, and we could charge them. And so we'd have a really nice two-sided market where both sides pays. After 60 days and having company after company after company hang up on me, after having investor after investor hang up on me, it was not good. Although we had a few shows where we did have people pay, it was a really bad experience for all parties. So I had to be honest with myself and say, this is not the way we need to do this. We need to pivot here. We need to be smarter, and we've got to reformat the way we're thinking about this. So honesty with yourself and your product, and critical honesty, because oftentimes, you're so filled with your own ego that you will keep going in a direction even when secretly inside it's not working. But then ego gets in the way. So 5 key takeaways from Ken Barton with MinnoTank are: number 1, be tenacious. Number 2, make relationships early. Number 3, aggregate your evangelists. Number 4, build growth loops for your startup or your business. And number 5 is be honest with yourself and know when something's going wrong, and don't be afraid to change it.
Well, we want to thank you again for being on, and we will have all of your information in our show notes to make sure that people get to the right place, and really look forward to seeing how MinnoTank is going to grow and expand. Next time, we would love to learn a little bit Chinese while you're on, maybe have a conversation in Chinese.
Yeah, no problem. I'll totally do that with you, Kagan.
We think that'd be lots of fun. But again, thank you so much for being on. We want to make sure everyone subscribes to this podcast. Do it now so you don't forget, and give a review on what you thought about Ken Barton and MinnoTank. It was phenomenal, and it's going to be really exciting to see how they grow in the future. Don't forget, if you are looking for insurance quotes that don't sting, which most people are, go to BriteBee.com, where insurance quotes don't sting. Click Get a Quote, and you'll find qualified insurance agents of your choice to give you quotes. We hope you have a wonderful day. We hope you learned a ton, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.